I talk to a lot of different people along the IT journey path. They're in a lot of different phases. Some of them are in businesses that use cloud tools. Others are technology folks that are making a transition in the career. And a lot of times I'm talking to learners like you out there who are just getting into the industry and they're excited about maybe working with a vendor like Amazon Web Services, being one of the big cloud providers that's out there. Usually after this, if they're talking AWS, I hear people say things like, I'm thinking about going for the Solutions Architect cert. And I'm here to tell you today, be careful, friends, this may not be the best place to start. Cloud computing is a funny thing. When we look at it and we hear people talk about it in the industry there, it certainly comes off as a very new technology itself. It must be the next new technology indeed. That unfortunately, cloud computing itself really isn't a technology. It's a service model. And so this is usually where things get a little interesting as we start looking at the AWS certifications. We're saying, okay, cloud is new. It looks and smells new. And so as I look at these AWS job roles, the new role that jumps out at me, like Solutions Architect, sure seems like the right one to pursue because of all the other newness that we just talked about. But consider some of the other roles that are there, like developer and SysOps Administrator. Those are a lot more traditional types of job roles. And indeed, that tells us a little bit about which one really is going to be the best fit. And so, starting right out, first reason why you probably shouldn't start with the Solutions Architect is recognizing that solutions architecting is not about administration. It's about gathering requirements and understanding the dynamics of making applications run in modern networks and in modern data centers. And so this means that really to truly be a solutions architect, we do need to be able to call on a lot more background experience about the complex and diverse world of networking, virtualization, and automation, those other underlying technologies that you heard me talking about. And so in the end, friends, ultimately there isn't really as many gigs out there for solutions architects unless you're going to work for some of the really big consulting firms that are out there or AWS directly themselves. In general, I would consider the solutions architect position something that would come after some other career experience that's out there. And the number two reason why I would encourage you maybe to move away from the solutions architect and look at one of the other associate certs instead is because the National Institute of Standards and Technology tell us that hybrid cloud computing is going to be the most common, the most prevalent model that we're going to see out there in the wilds of the infrastructure world. And when we say hybrid, we're talking about supporting private in-house data centers, on-premises infrastructures, and then pairing them up with cloud services that are hosted by providers like AWS. And so the name of the game isn't about designing fancy new applications for a lot of the world's organizations out there. Instead, the name of the game is supporting the value that already exists in the infrastructure that they have right now. And so this is why thinking about that hybrid element says that a focus on traditional administration is going to open up your options to a broader pool of employment opportunities. And that brings me down to reason number three why we shouldn't start with the solutions architect and instead should consider starting with the SysOps Administrator. It's all about the job availability. When you look at the types of work that needs to be done out there, sure, architecting is definitely a part of the cloud computing world, but the broader pool of administrative and operations work that's done day to day is going to call on skills that come from the SysOps Administrator exam instead. So that's why I encourage people to kind of start with that exam, especially if you're new to the cloud space or if you're making a transition from an existing technology world, especially when we think about the real world support and management tasks that exam helps prepare us for and how well that aligns with a lot of the real world administration that still needs to be done for so many organizations out there. Focusing on uptime, performance, reliability, managing existing infrastructure is something that's happening far more frequently than the actual architecting parts of it that you may have heard me talking about. And so think of it as narrowing your scopes down. If you start with SysOps Administrator, it's a bigger pool of jobs and it allows you to leverage your existing skill sets and then develop further towards that architecting role. Keeping in mind that as a solutions architect, you're ultimately in a position where you can still continue drawing on all of that deep expertise that a career as an ops or administrative person will help equip you with. And this is exactly the path that I've taken. And so to kind of recap here, friends, I want you to be excited about cloud computing. I want you to go out there and pursue a career really hard. But I do recognize that solutions architecting is definitely one of the newest fields within the AWS world. And that means that there aren't as many jobs and gigs real world out there for architects. So put it on the distant roadmap and consider starting with the SysOps Administrator. This is going to put you in the right position to support the common hybrid hybrid infrastructures that many organizations are supporting out there. Be sure to pair that up with a healthy understanding of networking, Linux, and Windows operations administration, and then get yourself as close to the developer world as you can, because SysOps quickly begins transforming into DevOps. Yet another reason why I see the SysOps certification as a great starting point. So I hope this helps you out there, friends. Dig into those AWS certifications, and we'll see you in the cloud.